Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Acting Oddities. Yes, we're sticking with that title. It's fine. We've reached the point of no return. Today, I want to talk to you guys about Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman. This is a show that I feel like none of you have seen. If I'm imagining my audience to be young males, sort of my age, then there's really no reason you would ever watch Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman unless you were like, I don't know, you got stuck at your grandparents' house for like a weekend and they like to watch it. I'm interested in watching Fred Rogers of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood play a character in this episode of Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman. This is the only time he's ever played a character in anything. He's appeared as himself on like Sesame Street and things like that, but this is, he actually played a character in this show, and I'd like to show you guys, because I think it's very interesting, and I think we're going to learn a lot together. So, Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, TV series that ran for about 6 seasons in the mid-90s, the trials and adventures of a female doctor in a small Wild West town. It's a very wholesome, just family show, and it is well done for what it is. So there are 2 storylines going on in this episode. There's a little storyline about Dr. Quinn, and she wants to make something for her unborn child with her husband, Sully.
Sully's made such a wonderful gift for our child, and I haven't made a thing.
But really our main story involves a character named Reverend Timothy. From what I gather from this episode, he's he's a reverend, but he's got a lot to learn. This looked like I wanted to punch him in the face, but I didn't. It's established that he's built this church over years, and he's very proud of it, but he's not as proud of it as he could be because there are things that are falling apart. It doesn't look good.
Look at the church, Michaela. The siding's loose, the roof leaks, and that bell hasn't worked properly in 2 years.
And most importantly, Reverend Thomas is coming into town.
And he's coming here in a month for a visit.
This is his mentor, his teacher at his old seminary, and he's coming into town in a month, and I need to make my church look amazing so he can see how good I've done. Now, throughout this episode, Reverend Timothy is like, he's so... I need to do repairs. Reverend Thomas is coming. I
need to order the supplies now so I can have the repairs completed by the time Reverend Thomas gets here. Because I want that bell up and ringing by the time Reverend Thomas arrives. Just a little nervous about Reverend Thomas coming to visit.
Kind of like when Orson Welles is built up throughout half of the movie in The Third Man, and then he finally shows up in this big reveal. So he needs to do repairs on his church because he wants to impress Reverend Thomas when he comes into town, but he doesn't have the money. So he goes to the general store owner and he's like, "Can you loan me some money for some supplies?" He goes, "You already owe me a lot of shit."
I know that my account is quite high at the moment.
A month and 8 days late. Not that I'm counting.
So then he's complaining about it to Sully, Dr. Quinn's husband, and Sully's like, why don't you just collect on all those loans that you've given out to people over the years? And he goes, "Well, I could do that. But I need the money now."
But there's no time to go collecting money, and I need those supplies right now. Oh, no.
And then Sully's reaction is pretty good. He's like, "Well, yeah.
Oh, no.
Don't know what to tell you." So then finally, Reverend Timothy, which, by the way, great name for his character. He's just so weak and... No, I need the money. And then Timothy is, no offense to any Timothys out there, but it's just a funny name, and it just works. There's a reason that it's funny that this great enchanter character in Monty Python and the Holy Grail, played by John Cleese, is named Tim.
There are some who call me Tim.
It's just such an ordinary name. Anyways, a little sidetrack. Reverend Timothy, he's so desperate. Meanwhile, the town asshole. So this guy, his name's Hank, and he is clearly an antagonist that pops up a lot. Hank is trying to build the first hotel in this town, and he sees an opportunity. He sees how desperate Reverend Timothy is. He goes, "Look, I bet I can get him to put his church up for collateral, and I know he's not going to be able to pay me back in the period of time that I set, and then I'll get the church and I can turn it into a hotel." Very classic asshole move. So Reverend Timothy agrees to this, and then things are going well. He's putting the church together, but then nobody is really paying him back on his small loans. He tries to get the money together, but he can't. So you see where this is going. Reverend Timothy is not able to pay back Hank gets to the church and he's turning it into the hotel on Sunday morning when Reverend Thomas is getting in here. The stakes are so high, and that's when we see our boy, Fred Rogers. So that pretty much brings you guys up to speed on what's going on in this episode. Let's watch.
Hello, Timothy.
I gotta pause, and it's only been one line, but dude, man, when Mr. Rogers shakes when he shakes your hand,
Hello, Timothy.
and he looks into your eyes, and there's such a warmth and kindness. That's who he was, man. And the fact that he was a Presbyterian minister in real life, this character is not a far cry from who he was.
Reverend Thomas, I'm sorry I wasn't at the station to meet you.
What's going on here?
You feel so bad for Reverend Timothy. It's like his father. It's like, what's going on here? It's like disappointing like a father figure in your life. There's also something about when Mr. Rogers speaks, you feel like a kid. You feel like, not just like a kid, but you feel special. You feel like you're the only person in the room. God, it sounds like I want to him, but really though, when he's just so earnest in the way he speaks. There's a clip from that I'll show you guys of Fred being interviewed on a talk show with Joan Rivers, which is kind of a weird place to interview Mr. Rogers because everybody starts kind of laughing at him when he's speaking.
How did you get into children's television?
I went to NBC right after college, and I was with programs like The Hit Parade, and...
But then Joan Rivers is like, oh, I feel like a child when you talk to me.
It's so funny he's talking to me, and I just feel like, say 8 years old, I'm gonna go, that's right.
Anyway, he has that going for him, which is nice.
I wanted to fix up the church for your visit. So, I made a deal with Hank here.
A deal?
He gave me a loan that, unfortunately, I was unable to repay. And as a result...
I gave him an extension on it.
Hank did the right thing, Hank.
1 more month.
I don't deserve it.
What's great for Mr. Rogers here is that the actor who's playing Reverend Timothy is really driving the scene, and all Fred has to do is react, which has got to be easy for him because he just imagines how he would react in real life. This is pretty much who he was, Presbyterian minister, teacher. So he had, his character, Reverend Timothy, was a former student of his. So there's a lot of real life stuff that he could draw from to really make this work. And really, doesn't have to do much, man. He's Mr. Rogers. Just be there and just be that beautiful man.
I'm very proud of you, Timothy. You've learned well. It's not the building, it's the people who are the church.
Speaking of which, Sunday. What do you say we have our service?
That is a wonderful idea.
That's really nice. So, I mean, what else can you say about it? He did a great job. A little short little bit part. And what made this come about is explained in an interview that I found. Just give me a moment.
You appeared on Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman.
Yes.
I guess. Can you talk a little about that?
Beth Sullivan and my wife met at some awards ceremony, and she went over to Beth and said, your program's the only one Fred will watch. And Beth said, do you think he might be a guest on the program? And she said, you could always ask him. He hasn't done that before, but you could always ask him. We've become great friends.
There's one more thing we can watch that gives us a little bit of insight into this kind of odd moment in time when Fred Rogers guest starred on a TV show, which is from a little piece done by Entertainment Tonight of a behind-the-scenes thing on his visit to set.
You don't realize how many wonderful friends you have until you step out into the world beyond. Oh, what a treat to meet you.
We have a pretty good neighborhood here.
I was a little nervous, actually. I went up, and it's like I've known him since I was about
before.
He came to work today and has taken the time out to address everybody who works here, no matter what their position, and he's personally taking photographs of all the crew, and he's just exactly like he is in his show.
This also explains something that I was curious about, was did people know that Mr. Rogers was going to be on the show? And clearly this was hyped up a little bit by CBS. So anyway, until next time, it's such a good feeling to know you're alive. It's such a happy feeling you're feeling inside, and when you wake up ready to say, I think I'll make a snappy new day. It's such a good feeling, a very good feeling, a feeling you know that I'll be back when the day is new, and I'll have more ideas for you, and you'll have things you'll want to talk about. I will too. I'll see you next time.